Welcome to part 19 of Basic Training. Today we're going to cover everything you need to know to play Rock Mountain on 150cc. The recommended build for this course is going to be Wario, Teddy Buggy, Cushion Tires, and Wario Wings since it pretty much maxes out on airspeed. Yes, really. I'll show you why this is so important in just a minute. When the run begins, move slightly to the right and start a wide right drift. When you build up a mini turbo, immediately release and start a left drift. If you've got good soft drifting, you can try to sneak in one more mini turbo before the cave section, but otherwise just wait until you get in there and start another right drift. After building up a super mini turbo in the cave, release and go to the right hand side of the first big pillar, since this is going to allow you to grab the coin and right drift into the next two coins. After charging up another super mini turbo comes the first legit complicated strategy of the run. After hitting the orange boost pad, jump with your joystick in a neutral position, and then start holding left just a little bit before you land so that immediately upon landing, you can start a right drift and have enough space to build up a mini turbo after drifting off the glider. This in turn sets you up nicely to do some glider vectoring while grabbing the coins. It's not super hard to learn this, but if it's giving you issues, then just trick off the glider ramp. Now this course is super long, and ideally you want to grab at least 2 coins from this little circle of coins here. You have a couple of options for this, but they both boil down to make sure that you're moving fully in one direction while approaching the coin circle. If you tricked off the glider, then hold your joystick in a 12 o'clock position so that you can move down while grabbing the coins. If you did glider vectoring like I did, then you'll probably want to be moving to the right. Note that if you move down and right like the world record does, you can actually grab 3 coins, but it's pretty hard to do that properly. Remember how I said that this build maxes on airspeed? Well, this is the first demonstration of why that's so important. This glider is super long, and we're basically just waiting it out until we land on the track below. And right after that, we're going to do another right drift with some more glider vectoring, making sure not to clip the grass with our tires when going off the glider. Go to the right of the first tree and then to the middle of the next 2 trees. Whether you did glider vectoring or tricked off the ramp, you want to land on the grass kind of close to this big rock on the left because we're going to use our mushroom and aim for this ramp in the off-road. Our landing position will allow us to approach this turn from kind of a wide angle, which is helpful because when we get to the ramp we can then tighten it up a lot, mini turbo trick off of it, and jump clear over the grass on the right hand side of the track. Now there is some cycle based stuff that you're going to need to be aware of when going up this hill. Rocks alternate falling from the left to the right on top of the orange boost ramps halfway up the mountain. If you're slower than me, you're going to have to make sure to move much further to the right than I do when landing from that last trick to avoid the rock. Other than that though, the only thing we need to do is go off the final orange boost ramp and jump on top of the blue glider ramp to do fast glider, similar in execution to what we do on cannon gliders and tracks like Waluigi Pinball and Sweet Sweet Canyon. Don't ask me why this works here and why it saves time, because honestly, I have no idea. After that though, we're on to lap 2, and there are really only a couple differences with lap 1. First of all, we're going to keep this glider all the way to this pipe on the right hand side of the track, and then trick off of it and start a right drift after we land. We'll be able to build up the super mini turbo much quicker this time around, so do a left hop into a left drift around the left hand side of the pillar this time, and then just chain it immediately into a right drift around the turn before the glider ramp so that we can build up a super mini turbo and do the glider vectoring strat just like before. And believe it or not, that's it. So let's check out my current personal best while I talk a bit more about the track. And by the way, if you found the video helpful so far, please don't forget to drop a like and a comment on the video so that it can get spread to more people, which really helps out the channel. Thank you very much, I really do appreciate it. Now, Rock Mountain. Another pretty long course, but thankfully not as mind-numbing as a course like Wario's Gold Mine. The first thing you probably noticed as soon as the video started was the really weird build that we're using, which, as I said earlier, pretty much maximizes airspeed as much as possible. I probably should have clarified this earlier, but airspeed specifically refers to how fast you're moving while the glider is out, and man is it out a lot on this track. I actually timed this out, and in my personal best, which is a 2:11.8, 51.6 seconds were spent gliding. For those of you keeping track at home, that's about 40% of the entire run being spent in the glider, so yeah, quite a bit. My first PB used the Waluigi tryhard build, and after switching to the max airspeed build, I was able to get to the first glider ramp at roughly the same time. You have no idea how hilarious it is to be roughly neck and neck with the Ghost, only to straight up take off as soon as we both start gliding. The other thing to point out is that this build just generally has much higher speed than the Waluigi Bitty Buggy build, and there really aren't that many spots where we're building up mini turbos, especially at the very end of the track when you go up that ginormous hill. Between the decently higher ground speed and the maxed out airspeed, I managed to save almost 2 seconds over my best ever Waluigi Bitty run, so, you know, the build makes a pretty big difference on this course. So now that we've gotten all that out of the way, what are my thoughts on the track? Well, I think it's certainly one of the more unique courses in the game. It originally came out in Mario Kart 7, which, as I understand it, is the first time that gliders were introduced in the franchise. And this feels like a track that was really designed to show off this new method of play. I can appreciate that for what it is, but I really just wish that gliding wasn't so slow and boring in this game. Aside from when you're doing glider vectoring, you're basically just waiting to get back down to the track, which can take upwards of 7 seconds on this one in particular. It would have been cool if they added some sort of mid-air boost panels, or at the very least some rings like on Mount Wario for you to go through so that you could at least be kept busy during the long glider sections. But between that and the really long uphill section at the end, there's just a bit too much of not enough happening in the course for it to be super interesting for me. So yeah, I guess in summary, while I don't love the course, I definitely don't hate it, and I find it more fun to play than a lot of the stuff in Wave 2, so if nothing else, that's gotta count for something, right? And that's everything you need to know to play Rock Mountain on 150cc. Hopefully this video helped you all out, and if it did, consider subscribing to my channel since I release new tutorials every week. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to do some basic training, and as always, I will see you in the next video.